How to lose your friends and be alone forever. Play Aclazotz as your commander. This guy is a bat and no one likes bats. It also has flying and lifelink and no one likes playing against flying and lifelink. But they can't even play because when it attacks they have to discard their cards and everyone hates discarding cards. And then you get to draw cards and then everyone's gonna hate you because they don't want to see you draw cards. And then you also make bats, but no one cares about that. But when they try and kill it, if it dies, it just becomes a land, and then you flip it back into Aclazotz, and then you keep attacking them and making them discard their cards. So everyone's gonna hate you. And there's also a human version of Aclazotz called Dreamstealer. There's a zombie version called Liliana's Reaver. And there are a bunch of specters, which are flying things that are basically bats and are basically Aclazotz, but worse. Except for Urgoros. He's legendary, so his name is Urgoros, and he was here before Aclazotz, so he's Urgoros. And bats are also great friends with rats, I think. This is a burglar rat, this is also burglar rat, this is also burglar rat, and this is also burglar rat. It's just because, you know, it's commander, you can only have singletons, so they had to name it differently, but basically, burglar rats. There's also one more rat, Nezumi Shortfang. It does more than a burglar rat, it kind of does two things. It's kind of like two cards, it rotates, it's kind of confusing actually. So yeah, here's another bat specter thing. And this is your typical sandwich card. It has kind of two good abilities and then they stuff the bad one in the middle. So that's a sandwich, yep. And moving on, there's also Rankle, Master of Pranks, and Rankle's Prank. Pretty much the same card, they just changed some letters and a few words here and there. Okay, then there's the Raven Man, and this guy makes birds. It's not a good card, but Plaguecrafter. We don't care about the sacrifice part, we just want them to discard cards. And yeah, I forgot, in case it wasn't clear, this whole deck is about making our opponents discard cards. So, this card discards, 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 plus plus, this card also discards, plus plus plus. And yeah, this card and this card both discard and more. And you might be thinking like, okay, so they are discarding cards, but we are not exactly getting a lot of value out of it, right? Well, we can draw cards. This book thing, waste not. Whenever they discard anything, we get like things, a lot of things. Or when they discard a card, they lose 2 life. Megrim is the 3 mana version of it, and they just basically changed a few words. And Raider's Wake, they just added more words and added 1 more mana. But wait a minute, what if they don't have cards to discard? There are actually 2 things we can do. The first one is very bad. We can actually let them draw cards so that we can make them discard. Or we can play out a bunch of bad enchantments and artifacts, which are basically all the same. They are gonna take so little damage but for so many turns. And that essentially is the point of this entire deck, to make them suffer as long as possible. And we also have really fun stuff to do. We have Asylum Visitor that can help us draw more cards. We have Noetic Scales that, if in the case that they can get a creature out, it'll just bounce back to their hand so that they can discard it again. And if that doesn't work, we will damn them, we will defile them, we will feed them to the swarm, we will grasp them infernally and snuff them out in a toxic deluge. And our opponents will not be able to do the same thing to us because we play good cards. We play these really good cards. These cards that you should be playing in every single deck that you can. These are fantastic cards. And also because, you know, we can just bring stuff back from the graveyard. I mean, we're playing black, we can do that. So we have all these cards, and the best one, of course, is Command the Dreadhorde. This can take our opponent's stuff, because the best way to make sure that they don't want to play with us ever again is to just take their creatures and start beating them with them. Then there's also a bunch of ramp in the form of rocks and rituals, because the aim, of course, is to get Aclazotz out on turn 4. And one of the best follow-ups to a turn 4 Aclazotz is a turn 5 Elhamaret's Archive. This card is completely useless unless Aclazotz is already on the field. So don't play this card until Aclazotz is on the field. Then you can play this card and then it's gonna be decent. Sheoldred, however, is more than decent. This card has 2 sides. It has 6 paragraphs and it does the equivalent of 4 cards. And it flips to one side, then it flips back to the other side. You can flip it back again and then it flips back again. Anyway, Tergrid is another card that has 2 sides, but you can only choose one of them. It's not as good. And the final creature we have in the deck is Tiny Bones. This guy would be the commander of the deck if Aclazotz did not exist. And honestly, it just kind of kills our opponents too quickly, and you know, we want them to suffer. More importantly, we want to rub our expensive mana base in their faces. So there's Cabal Coffers and Urborg. And then there's a bunch of cheap lands. We have Bojuka Bog and the Hive, just for, you know, a bit of graveyard hate. And finally, Reliquary Tower and Castle Locthwain and 25 Swamps. And that's it. I hope this helps you to get rid of all your annoying friends. If it did, please subscribe, like, leave a comment down below, and let me know if you want to see more of this kind of content. Bye!